Hey everyone, thanks for learning to play games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to take a look at a brand new game coming to Backerkit, which is Mythlords. This is a brand new one from Destiny Horizons. It is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 40 to 80 minutes to play, and is a competitive game where players are going to be competing with each other throughout the game to accomplish one of the 3 different end game conditions, which is either one of the players reaches 20 victory points, or whatever you've chosen to set, as you can set it for lower or higher. So depending upon what you and your opponents agree on, that's what it is. Or if all of the lands are depleted, or if one of the players is able to destroy another player's sanctum. If any of those conditions are met, then the game is going to end, and the player that has the most victory points, or the last player standing potentially, if it's a 2-player game and you eliminate your opponent's sanctum, is the winner of the game. So in the game itself, you are going to be playing monsters, and you are going to take control. You're going to be playing as a commander, which is one of the iconic monsters in the Mythlords base game. You're going to have the classic monsters, so Frankenstein and Dracula, Werewolf or Wolfman, and the Creature of the Deep, and others that you're going to take control of. And the worlds are colliding, things are happening, worlds are melding, and these lords are fighting to stay in existence. So they're competing, trying to take control over lands and gain influence over those, recruiting new creatures, getting powerful weapons and different abilities and vehicles and all that, in hopes that they're going to keep enough influence to keep their world alive and their own existence in these worlds. So that is what you're going to do as the players. You're going to take control of these lords and commanders and get out there, recruit cards into your deck, try to take control over different lands, going on different missions, and defeating your opponent's sanctums. And so in this video, I'm going to take you through the main features of the game, show you a sample turn in action, give you a better idea how this one plays, and help you decide on whether that's this one you want to back on Backerkit. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we continue to grow and be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also get that notification bell ring, and that'll let you know whenever I drop new stuff. Now, before I get into the video, there are a couple other things that I want to point out real quick. First off, all the materials you see here are prototype materials and are subject to change and look a lot better than the final production copy of the game. Next, there are a couple of other things that I just wanted to show off as I was sent these as well. One of them is going to be an upgraded version of the player mats, so you can just use the ones that are coming in the box, or you can get the upgraded versions with better art and a bigger area to play on, and these will be neoprene mats that you'll be able to purchase. Another thing throughout the game or throughout the campaign is that there might be some of the different expansions offered depending upon how the campaign does. The first one that is going to be unlocked is the Dark Oz. So if you're a fan of Wizard of Oz, you can pick up one of these, and this is going to give you a couple new commanders. You're going to have new monsters and new locations and new vehicles and all kinds of different things that are all around the Wizard of Oz theme. So if you're a fan of that, this is definitely one that you might be interested in. Also, there's going to be other unlocks potentially, depending upon how things go again. There might be a 5th player unlock where you'll get to add another player into the game, as well as, and don't quote me on this, depends on how things go, but there might even be some miniatures involved as well. So if you're a fan of minis and you want to see some of these guys in miniature form, definitely support the campaign. So let's go ahead and head to the table and we'll see what this one's all about. So the first thing I want to go over is your faction, as each player is going to start the game choosing one of the different commanders that they're going to control and gain that commander's card. And then you're going to take a dashboard matching that commander's faction. So for example, we have the vampire faction here, and I've chosen Dracula as my commander. So you'll have a dashboard that's going to represent your sanctum, and this is going to track your 3 different stats, which is the amount of energy you have that you'll be able to spend to recruit new cards and new things into your deck. You're going to have your sanctum's health, and you're also going to have your victory point tracker, so you can track how many victory points you have. Now, each sanctum is also going to come with 6 standee holders that you'll be able to place the different characters in, including your commander or other characters you can recruit throughout the game. And you'll have a maximum number of 6 of those, so you can never have more characters than that. You're also going to have a dial that's going to be used in combat so that you'll be able to spend energy on to boost up your combat power. And you also have tokens to mark the different locations that you're trying to gain control over throughout the game. And then each of the different factions will have their own starting deck that'll come with a number of action cards, their own special minion, and some power cards that they'll be able to use throughout the game. And then throughout the game, again, you'll be able to build up those decks, as you're going to see, with all kinds of different characters, weapons, vehicles, and other things that are going to help you along the way. From there, real quick, I want to go over the commander card. So each commander card is going to list the name of that commander on the top, along with its faction icon. And then going down the side are the 4 different stats for that commander, which you'll also find on other minions and character cards. The first one is the number of hit points that that particular character has. Next is that character's strength, or amount of damage it does in combat. Then you have the energy it generates if it is in the sanctum. And finally, any skills that that character has, which will trigger based on the different equipment that it has, if you have a weapon that triggers based on that, or vehicles or whatnot. From there, then you're going to have keywords that you'll find in the middle of the card, and then going down the end of the card, or the bottom of the card, are the abilities. Some of these abilities are going to have just the red circle, which means they're passive abilities and will be triggered when you meet the requirements on them. Other abilities you'll have to spend energy from your sanctum to trigger. For example, with the Siphon Life, I'll have to spend 1 power to be able to generate or to activate that ability. And then finally, at the bottom of the card is some flavor text to just kind of give you an idea of what's going on, and the amount of victory points that your opponent gets if they defeat your commander. And in the base game, you're going to have 5 different commanders to choose from. You'll have Dracula, the Wicked Witch, the Creature from the Deep, Alpha Wolf, and the Frankenstein's Monster. Now, this being a deck builder, you're going to be able to add additional cards to your deck throughout the game that you'll be purchasing from the river or from the undead area. So first off, there's going to be a number of different types of cards, including different character cards that are going to include different champions and minions that you'll be able to add to your sanctum and be able to place out onto different locations, trying to gain control of them or going after different missions. You're also going to have weapon cards and different vehicle cards that will allow you to transport your different characters to locations that they might not be able to reach otherwise, or that you'll be able to augment your characters with, such as creature gills, for example, or again, different weapons such as the wooden stake or cursed dagger. And then finally, you're going to have different action cards, and these you'll be able to use, and each one of them will have 1 or more abilities that you'll be able to trigger. Some of them you'll have to pay to trigger, and others you can just play and handle the effects. With some of them, such as the Monster Hunters, actually going into your opponent's deck and doing all kinds of nasty stuff to your opponent. So lots of different cards that you'll be able to add to your decks throughout the game. The next kind of card you're going to be interacting with are location cards, and each one of these players are going to be trying to gain control on throughout the game. You're going to be placing characters on these locations to gain control of them, and each round the characters are on there, they're going to be placing their faction tokens on these locations. And when the third token is going to be placed by a faction, instead that faction is going to gain control of that location. Each location is going to grant victory points that you'll be able to collect right away when you collect that location, as well as a powerful interrupt that the player is going to be able to use at some point throughout the rest of the game 1 time, and then this card will be flipped over. Now, each location is going to have special rules when characters go there, a maximum number of characters that can be placed on there, and the different types of locations such as air or sea and land locations, which will restrict who can go there, and some locations such as the air or sea might need special vehicles to get to those locations. And then the final type of card you're going to be interacting with are mission cards, and each one of these cards is going to list the name of that mission, a briefing about the mission, what you're trying to achieve, any special requirements, such as most of the missions will have certain types of characters that can only be placed on there. For example, with this one, only a soldier or infiltrator can be placed on here. And this one, only an assassin or commander character can be placed on there. Once you complete the mission, this will tell you what you've achieved, and there's 2 locations for characters. And it has to be from different factions. And each player will place their character in a starting location, and then at the beginning of each of their turns, they're going to move that character 1 space over. So it'll take at least 2 complete turns before a character moves off, and then that faction is going to gain that card, which is also going to give that character or that faction victory points and any special conditions, again, that you'll be carrying out from that point on. The next thing I want to go over is the 3 different ways the game is going to end. So the first way is very simple. It's if one player reaches 20 experience points, or whatever you've agreed on for the players, as you can play games that are more than 20 experience points as a limit, or less than 20 points of experience as a limit if you're looking for shorter games. But if one of the players reaches 20 or whatever you've set it at, that will end the game and that player will be the winner. Another way is if you have to refill the land. So if somebody claims a land card and a new card cannot be put out because all of the cards are gone from the draw pile, that is going to end the game immediately. And then whichever player has the most victory points at that point will be the winner. And the final way is if a player's sanctum is eliminated. Now, throughout the game, the players are going to be able to attack their opponent's sanctum and deal damage to it. And each time the player's sanctum's damage is reduced to 0 hit points, that player's sanctum is going to place the black cube starting on the space or the number that is below the first white line. So the first time the sanctum is eliminated or dealt 10 damage, that player is going to place the cube here, and for the rest of the game, that player can only accumulate up to 7 power. So it's going to slowly reduce the effectiveness of your sanctum. And then during that player's next turn, that player will regain 10 hit points. The next time that player loses 10 hit points, it'll be reduced again down to 5, and then down to 3, and then at that point, if it happens again, then that player's sanctum is eliminated, and that player has lost the game. And again, if there's more than 2 players out there, then whoever has the most victory points will be the winner. Otherwise, it'll be the player that is left. For in this example, if the unholy lab was destroyed, then the vampires would be the winning faction. And the last thing I want to do is take you through a couple of sample turns to give you a better idea how this one plays. So for this example, I went ahead and played a couple of turns ready to get into more of the game so I can show you some more of the features of the game. So from there, I have a couple of different factions out right now. I have the vampires with their creepy castle and the monsters with the unholy lab. And with the characters, with the vampire characters, they have the brides out already in the vampire crypt, and they already have 1 influence token on there. And then I also have Dracula out trying to complete one of the missions, as that particular mission requires a commander to be placed in there. So I'm working towards that. Now on the other side, we have Frankenstein's monster working on the murky swamp, and he has the creature gills in there, so that's why he can go there, as that particular location is a sea location, so you'd have to have a transport to get there, or the ability to do so otherwise. All right, so moving back over to the vampire player, there's a few steps that you're going to go through during your turn, or 7 in total, and so I'm going to take you through each one of these and explain how they work. So the very first step in your turn is if you have characters out at locations, you're going to place an influence token there. So I'm going to drop another one in here. Now next turn, I will claim this location as long as I still have a character there. And then I'll be able to gain that location. I'll get some victory points out of that, and a new interrupt that I can play sometime during the game when I need it. You're also going to move any characters you have on missions, moving them over to the next spot, or if I already had a character here, then I would move it off and I would actually get to claim that mission then. All right, so that's everything there. So then the next step is to take cards from your deck into your hands up to your hand limit of 5. So I have 4 there, and then so I'll take my discard pile and reshuffle those, and I'll get to draw 1 additional card from that. So there's my 5. From there, then I'm going to generate power. So I would generate power based on the different creatures or commander that I have in my sanctum. Now, currently I don't have any in there, so I'm not going to generate any power from that, as I've sent them all out to try to start working on some of these different locations and missions and all of that stuff. So from there, now that I've handled all of that, I'm going to move into playing cards from my hand and handling effects from those. So I have Resurrection right now. And an interesting aspect in this game is that once the cards are in your hand, you don't have to pay to play them. You can actually just play them and not have to worry about that. The only time you're going to be paying for cards is to purchase cards from the river or activate abilities on some of the cards that are required, as you saw earlier. So I have one of these that I'll spend to gain an energy. And then I have a demonic axe, which I think would be pretty good to place out. I can attach it to any character. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it to the brides, as that'll bump them up a little bit. It gives them a little bit of extra health and a little bit more attack power. Now, they don't have the symbol that's listed on there, otherwise they would benefit from that, but that's all right. I also do have a mummy, so I'm going to go ahead and place him out. And so I'm going to take one of my colored tabs, and then I have to find the mummy's standee. So there's that. I will attach that, and then the mummy will be placed in my sanctum. All right, so he goes in there, and he's a nastier character. He has 6 hit points. He does 2 damage. He generates 2 energy, and he has that sword ability. So I could have equipped that weapon to him instead, and he would have been able to take even more advantage of it. But I really wanted to get something on the brides just in case something happens, as I'm getting pretty close to going up there. And then I do have Resurrection. It lets me place a character with 3 energy or less from your deck or discard pile into your sanctum. I currently don't have any characters like that, so I'm going to go ahead and just spend this to draw a card from the deck. All right, so then I have Recruitment. So this one lets me subtract 1 energy from the cost of a character in the river that has the vampire icon, or I can draw the top card of my deck. There aren't any characters out right now that do have that symbol, so I'm just going to go ahead and play that to draw the top card of my deck. And this is preparation, so this lets me either gain 2 energy in my sanctum, or I can draw the top card of my deck. So I'm just going to go ahead and play that again to get that, as I already have all the energy I can have. All right, so I have Fire Strike. So this one's going to cost me 2 energy to play, and it lets me do 2 damage to a sanctum, and I get to add an influence token there if there isn't one already. Now, both of our players have been using these already, so both players have a token on there and have already started doing some damage. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'll spend the 2 to play that, doing 2 more damage to that player's sanctum. And then I will play that card to give me 1 more energy there. All right, so that is pretty much everything I can do during my playing card phase. So then I'm going to move into the purchase phase. So I have 9 energy. I have plenty of energy if I want to purchase anything from the river. And let's see what we have here. So we have a summon spell. This one is an interrupt. You can play during a battle. Add 1 weapon or vehicle to your force from your sanctum hand, discard, or attach to a friendly character in a location. So that could be pretty handy. That one's 3. Sure, why not? So it's going to cost me 3. So 1, 2, 3. So that puts me down to 6. We have Claw Strike coming out, so that's pretty nice. Another interesting one there is the Monster Hunter. So that card will go into your opponent's discard pile, and then when it comes up again, your opponent's going to have to deal with it, either paying a cost to discard it or eliminating one of their characters to remove it from their deck. So another interesting aspect to the game is certain cards might not go into your deck, they might go into your opponent's. All right, that is pretty much everything I think I want to do at this point for purchasing. So from there, then I get to deploy, so I can deploy characters or move characters potentially. So I could place the assassin out, or the mummy out, who happens to be has a classification of assassin. That's why I said that. So I could throw him in with the vampire brides and really solidify my grasp on that location, or I could throw him out into a mission and start working on that one. As my opponent right now does not have an assassin, and this location is either an infiltrator or an assassin that is required. So that might be a good option as well. I could just leave the mummy there in my sanctum as well, as it is going to generate energy for me, and it also protects my sanctum, as my opponent might, if I empty out all the monsters in there, might take that opportunity to try to go after my sanctum and do some damage to it, or permanently damage it by reducing all of its hit points, which then it'll come back, or I'll get all my points back next turn, but it's also going to deplete my level of how much energy I can accrue during my turns, so making the sanctum less and less powerful. And if you ever lose all of or your black token each time you take damage, so say my opponent did attack and eliminated all of my hit points, at that point then I'm going to place the black token out, and it's going to go below the line, the white line that's on the sanctum. So at that point, from that point on in the rest of the game, I can only generate up to 7 energy. And each time the sanctum is depleted of all of its hit points, this is going to continue moving up to the point where it can go from just 5 energy you can accrue to 3 energy, and then after that, then your sanctum is eliminated. And that is one of the victory conditions for the game, is eliminating your opponent's sanctum. So again, I think that's it for me there. So I'm not going to deploy, I think, at this point. I think I'm spread out enough, and so I'm going to hold out there until some of my other characters come back. And so the last step is to initiate a battle. So I can initiate a battle on an opponent's sanctum, or if I'm sharing a space with an opponent's enemy or an opponent's models or standees. And at this point I am not, so I'm pretty good there, and I'm going to end my turn. So then it's going to pass over to the next player in clockwise order to go. So that is going to start off this player's turn. So again, I'm going to go ahead and handle all that. So I do have Frankenstein's monster out, so I'll get to place a token there as he's starting to collect and control that location. From there, then I am going to go ahead and take cards from my deck. So I have 1, and then these will get shuffled up. And I do have a couple of minions out, or a minion and another one out. So I have the Experiment 13, big brute-ish kind of guy, and the Headless Horseman. And they're both sitting at my sanctum right now. So I will get 5 cards. Then I get to generate power, so the Experiment generates 1, and the Horseman generates 3. So that is going to put me up to 7. And then I'm going to play cards, so I'm going to go ahead and play that to give me another one here. And then I've got some other cards that I can do here. So I have grab a weapon. So this one lets me subtract a energy from a weapon card to purchase it from the river, which there aren't any weapons out at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and discard this instead to draw the top card of your deck. Okay, I have recruitment, so I can subtract 1 from a character. There's also no characters out right now. So again, I'm going to discard that, and I'll carry out the bottom effect, which lets me draw a card from the deck. I have the Fire Strike again, so I'm going to spend 2 to go ahead and hit that and do 2 more to my opponent's sanctum. And then I do have Resurrection, which again, I don't have any characters right now that are level or 3 energy or less. So I'm going to go ahead and discard to draw a card. Gets me an energy back. And then I do have, this one lets me add to my sanctum, or I can do a damage. I think I'm going to hold on to that though. And then I do have the Blacksmith, which lets me subtract 1 from a vehicle, or draw the top card of your deck. That Ghost Train might be beneficial though. So I think I will hold on to this, and then during my purchase step, which is right now, or as I'm done with my playing card step, so I'm going to go ahead and do a purchase. So I'm going to go ahead and spend this to subtract 1 from the vehicle, and then that's going to cost me 3 instead. So that'll go into my discard pile. A new card comes out immediately. Oh, there's another henchman, the Hunchback. All right, and I do have enough for him, but I'm also thinking about potentially doing a battle, as I really don't like the fact that they're going to claim that location. So I could go in there with the Headless Horseman and try to eliminate the brides, as that might be beneficial. I think I will try that. So I'm not going to purchase the Hunchback. So I'm going to move into the deployment phase. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy into that location. As it is a land location, I can do that. And I could deploy him as well, as I'm allowed to deploy up to 2 characters. Do I want to do that? Sure. All right, so I'm going to drop both of them in there. And so that was my 2 deploys, and now I'm going to initiate a battle. I'm going to go ahead and initiate a battle in that location. So with a battle, you're going to go through a number of steps. So first off, I am the attacker. The opponent is going to be the defender in that situation. So from there, then I am going to go ahead and choose a location where you have characters. I did. Battle cry, add a number of fists of the characters, attachments, and bonuses on the location to get the natural strength. So currently, both of these characters are going to generate a total of 5 power. And then, let's see, I get +1 fists or power. If another friendly character on this monster location shares that symbol, he does not. So I won't get that benefit there. So currently I have 5 power between those 2 characters. Now my opponent has the brides with their demon axe attached, so they're going to generate 3 power there, or 3 strength, and they are attuned to that location, as that location is a vampire location, so they're going to get a bonus point or power for that. So that puts them up to 4. And then I do have influence tokens there as well, so that's going to put them up to 6. So right now it's 6 to 5 between all of the different things. Now we can start playing cards, or we start with the bid step next. So each one of us can spend some of our sanction energy up to the maximum amount that we have, or 6 total is the max you can spend as you're going to use your dial. And so each player is going to secretly choose how much they want to spend. Now, some of this is a bluffing aspect too, as you can try to hopefully your opponent might go too far or think you're going to bid higher or whatever. So there is a lot of strategy in that part, as if you can deplete your opponent of energy, that gives them less that they can do during other turns and potentially helps you out as well. So I know I'm down by 1. And the most I could spend is 4. So I could spend all of it and hope that he doesn't. And then I might be able to pull this off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then on his side, I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right, so from there then we're going to reveal, and we both went all in, so you have to spend them, so everybody's dropping all of their power. So from there, I had 6 with them, so now I'm up to 12. These guys had 5, or I did have 6, right? I had 3, 4, 5, 6, yes I did, to their 5, and they also added 4 to their side, so it's going to be 12 to 9. So they're a little bit behind here. So from there, then you are going to be able to play action cards. Now my player over here doesn't have any cards, so I won't be able to do that. And so normally it's going to start with the defensive player to play any cards that player has. Again, I'm out of cards, so it's going to pass to the attacking player. And I do have grapple, which is going to add an additional strength to any character in the battle. So I will do that. So that puts that player up to 10. And unfortunately, I don't have anything else at this point. Now, if I had other effects that I could trigger on the character cards by playing the point or paying the points, then I could do that if I was able to. For example, with the Headless Horseman, he has Taking Heads, which costs 1 energy. And if the horseman wins the battle, he gets to add 4 strength to the resolution. So that just gives even more damage to potentially eliminating other characters in that. But at this point, there is nothing else that either one of us can add to this battle. So now we're going to resolve it with the final totals of 12 to 10. So 12 to 10, the vampires have won and defended the area. So the winning team was going to get to add a token. So that actually works out because they're going to claim that location as part of that. Then you're going to resolve damage. So the vampire brides did 12 damage to those two. So first off, if they had any accessories attached or vehicles or anything like that, those are all going to go first. And then the rest is going to be dealt out. So they only have 8 hit points between the two of them. So both of them are going to be eliminated from that location. And their stuff is going to be added back to the discard pile. So they'll be able to be brought back out later on. And then that'll be added back out. Now, the important part of that is that there's only a couple of copies of each one of the different champions out there. And there's only one standee. So if both players have that card, and the one player has the standee out, the other player will not be able to play that card unless that player has doppelgangers or whatnot. So that there is some strategy to eliminating your opponent's characters, potentially if you also have those characters and want to get them out. All right, and then they're going to do 10 back, and the brides definitely can't take that. So first off, the sword is going to take, or the axe is going to take 2, and then the brides take 3 from that, and they're also going to go down. So those will be taken out, and this location actually is going to be removed as I get to claim it, and I'm going to get 3 points for that. So I'm going to move 3 points up on my track, and then this is going to be placed out face up, and at a later point during the game I can spend it to do an interact. So this one is Awaken. So this one says that you may take a vampire character from the river or main deck for free and add it to any location, then place an influence on a vampire location. So that is really nice. So hopefully I'll be able to use that at some point. The rest of these are going to slide over, and a new location comes out. That is also another condition that I'll go over for victory or ending the game. If you have to place out a location and there are none left in the draw pile, that is also going to end the game immediately. All right, so at this point, that would be the end of that player's turn, and then we kick it back over to the vampires. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here for the sake of this video, and I hope this gives you a better idea of how the game plays. Well, I hope you found the video helpful in deciding on whether or not this is one you want to back on Backerkit. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please post those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Or swing by the comment section and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creator would love to hear from you and is more than happy to answer any questions you have. Until next time, I'll see you later.